All right, we're in Chapter 0 on Arithmetic Review. This is Section 0.2 on fractions. So first thing we need to do is know how to reduce fractions to lowest terms, because when you're working on answers, they always want to end lowest terms. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some examples here. And what we can do is we can do this in steps. We don't have to go from the initial fraction to the final fraction all in one step. We can go in steps if we need to, okay? So what would I do here? Looking at 48 and 84, what do they have in common? Well, if I think about it, they both can be divided by 4. So if I divide that by 4 and I divide that by 4, what do I have there? Well, 4 goes in here 1, 2, so that's going to be 12. 4 goes in here 2, 1, so that's going to be 21. Now, 12 and 21. Well, that's 3 times 4, that's 3 times 7. So if I divide that by 3 on both of them, then I can reduce it some more. Well, 12 divided by 3, again, I said was 4. 21 divided by 3 was 7. Now, at this point, I really can't see anything else to reduce it by because we have, this is only 2 times 2, and this is 1 times 7. And so that would be our final answer. And again, if you could need to, you could take, instead of dividing it by 4, you could divide it up by 2 and then by 2 again and then by 3. Or if you could see directly this, you could divide that by 12 and that by 12 and go straight to here. That would be fine as well. But again, it's whatever you can see to do what you need to do to reduce these. So here we have 25 over 20. Well, if I think about that, 25 is 5 times 5, and 20 is 4 times 5. So it looks like if I divide both of those by 5, I can reduce it some. So 25 divided by 5, I said was 5, and 20 divided by 5 was 4. Now those can't be reduced anymore. 5 over 4 is as low as we can go for that answer. All right, what about this one? Well, those are big numbers, so I see that they're even. So my first thing is I'm just going to divide by 2. And again, I could have done that up here, divided by 2, then divided by 2 again, and then divided by 3, and that would be fine. Whatever it takes is easiest for you, that's fine. So 126 divided by 2, well, that's going to give me a 63. 2 goes in there, that's a 5 and a 4. So now I have 63 over 54. All right, well, what do I know here? Well, if I take 63 divided by 9, that's a 7, and 54 divided by 9, that's a 6, and so that would be my guess. And so knowing the multiples of 9 helps in this case, or I could have divided both of them by 3. So if I did that, I could divide by 3, and get one set, and then I'd divide by 3 and 3 again and get the last one, or just divide by 9 at this stage here, and that's going to give me 7 over 6. Okay, so these are how to reduce original fraction to a fraction in lowest terms. Now, other things we might have to do is we might have to identify the fractions in a line graph. So we might be given some kind of line graph and we have to determine what is that fraction. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we have to figure out what this point here is, and we have to figure out what this point here is. Okay, now we need to give answers as proper or improper fractions. So, if we look back here, this would be an improper fraction. This would be a proper fraction. And it just depends on where we're at because, less than 1, these are going to be proper. Greater than 1, these are going to be improper fractions. So what we need to do is we need to figure out the intervals here. So how many pieces do we have in here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is broken into 5 parts, and we're at the first part here. So that's going to be 1 out of 5. Now the next one here is going to be what? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 5. And so that's going to be our improper fraction. Now again, what we could have done, we could have said this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's going to be 4/5. and we have the 1 to start with, so we have 1 and 4/5, and then we just have to remember how to convert the mixed number into the improper fraction. So what we do is we take this times this, and then we take that, then plus 4. So we'll take 5 times 1, and we get 5, plus 4 is 9, and then that's over 5. And so that gives us the same thing as what we had here, but what we did here was we just took and counted how many spaces we did until we got here, and that was divided by 5. So we got 9 over the 5. Okay. All right. Now, moving on in fractions, another thing we can do is we can multiply and we can divide and we can add and we can subtract fractions. So, depending on what we're doing, we're going to have to figure out how to simplify to get to where we need to go. So, if we're given mixed numbers to work with, you have to convert those first to improper fractions and then do the arithmetic, whether you're doing adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, and then convert back to the mixed number in lowest terms. Because if they give it to you in this number, a mixed number, then they want the final answer usually in a mixed number. If they give it to you initially and say, our 9/5, the improper fraction, and then you're multiplying or whatever, when you get done, you're going to want it back into an improper fraction. So usually, whatever the first number is, whether it's the 9/5 or the 1.5, that's going to indicate what your final answer should be in. So in this case, this is going to be in terms of mixed numbers. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to convert these two mixed numbers into improper fractions. So again, we're going to take 2 times 1 and get 2. Then we're going to take that plus 1, so we're going to get 3 all over our original denominator of 2. Here we're going to take 3 times 6 and get 18, and then we're going to add 1 and we get 19 over 3. Okay, so that is how we're going to convert those mixed numbers into improper fractions. And so now when we have to multiply these, now we have it already figured out. That's 3/2 times 19 over 3. Now when we're multiplying fractions, it's really nice. All we do is we multiply straight across. Okay, so we take 3 times 19. Well, I can't do that in my head, so we'll go ahead and do that over here. 3 times 9 is 27, times, bring up our 2, and that's going to be 57. Okay, now 2 times 3 is 6. Now is that in reduced form? Not really, because at this point over here, we could have done something different. We could have said, well, hey, you know what? That 3 in the numerator cancels that 3 in the denominator. And when we do that, then it's 1 times 19, which is 19, and 2 times 1, which is 2. And so we get 19/2. Okay. So that is what happens here. So what we'd have to do is divide that by 3 and divide that by 3 and get a reduced fraction, which then was our 19/2. Now, both of them give us the same thing, but this way is quicker. So when you can see ways to reduce before you multiply, that's going to make your life a lot simpler, because when you do that, you're going to reduce that one step of over here, multiplying and then putting it down and then multiplying again, although that one 2 times 3 we did in our head, and then getting to that answer. Now, are we done? No, because we need it back into the mixed number format. And so how do we do that? Well, we take 19 divided by 2. And so we just divide it out. 2 goes into 19. Well, that'll be 9. That'll give us 18. That's 1. And so it looks like it's going to give us 9 and 1/2. Okay, so if we take 2 times 9, that's 18, plus 1 is 19. That gives us our 19/2. And so that then would be our final answer. So again, we have to convert to the improper fractions before we multiply or divide or anything. That way it's simpler, and then we can get our final answer back if we have to dividing and getting back into the mixed number. All right, let's pause there and we'll come back for more.